a name that was somewhat familiar, but I have no idea where I heard it from. And it had nothing to do with the mother's side and her maiden name and my father's side. It was a name totally different from anybody else in the family. So I start researching this. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. So, and they were living at the same address with my grandfather, grandmother, mother, all right, and this name that I've never heard of before. Oh, I've heard it, but I had no idea what it was. You know, you dismiss it after a while. And what the hell is going on here? So anyway, I started researching the name. Well, come to find out, my mom was married prior to this other name. Because as I research it, I start finding out, oh, blah, 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 other name, which is my mother, blah, 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 blah. All right. So, well, wait a minute. That doesn't match any of the names that I'm familiar with here. But apparently she was married to this guy. And it wasn't for long. So now I start thinking about it. I call my aunt. My aunt says, oh yeah, your mother used to date him. Your mother was dating him, and then she started dating your father, meaning the father that I know as a father, which again is my father, by the way. But it starts throwing little glitches in here, like, oh shit, now okay, is my father really my father? You follow me? Because the date that this was, now I'm not going to give exact dates. Hypothetically, the date that they lived in this house with my grandfather would have never allowed his daughter to live with another man in her house unless they were married. So that kind of tells me that as well. We'll say 1960, they lived in this house with this husband of hers at that point. Well, I was born in 1961. All right, and in the early part of 1961. So it starts, you start thinking, you know what I mean? Okay, you know, and then my aunt says, well, yeah, that used to be, you know, your mother used to date him. I says, well, apparently she was married to him. Oh, she was? Well, you know, okay, now, Auntie, you're either saying, you're saying, okay, you don't want to tell me something, or you really didn't know. Who knows at this point? She's only going to know, and again, she was way young at the time. She was younger than my father. So they're only going to know what my father is telling them. And on that side of the family, my grandfather would not approve of my father going out with a married woman. So you never know where the words are going and what's being said. So that leaves it up to me now to think, okay, wait a minute, I may be this other name. So the dad that I had, you know, who just passed away, that I've been calling dad all these years, may not have actually been my dad. Because we're only talking a few months here, you know. And the other guy was described as tall, good looking. Well, my dad was 5'8". Then it came up, again, you can't always trust them. You have to research. It came up that my brother and sister were the only ones showing in the marriage with my mother and father. And I'm older than them. I'm the oldest in the family. And I look a little further, and I was coming up as a half-brother. Well, bingo, that also tells me this other guy must have been my father. You follow me? So this is where I'm going here. Now, what the point I'm making is, the ancestry thing will work. But you really have to research, because I could have very easily said, oh, you know, and started chasing this other name, when in fact it wasn't. The DNA came in, and that particular nationality is not in my blood anywhere. And everything that was on my mom and dad's side, the dad that I know as dad, was in fact all there. So my dad that I knew as dad was really my dad. But you really have to think this out. When you get involved with this, don't get emotional, don't get carried away, and don't get narrow-minded or tunnel vision. Do your research. All right? You really have to do your research. And if it wasn't for the DNA, I would have never really known until I really started doing some deep research. Now here's another one that kind of put me over the edge to the other side. I found a guy, he's actually a brother Mason here in Connecticut, and my mom, under her maiden name, came up in his tree. So I emailed him. I says, hate to bother you, but can you tell me how my mom, blah, 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 came up in your tree? And he comes back to me and says, she was a sister-in-law to my cousin. Well, wait a minute. The only sister-in-law my mom had was my aunt on my father's side, which is the one that's still alive. She had no sisters, so there was no other sister-in-law. You follow? And on the other side, there was no sister-in-laws. So, was there a sister-in-law under this other name? Because she was married to that person. You follow me? So that could have been. So even though she was married to them, to this other person, there's no relationship to me with that other person. But when you start looking at all this, I may be confusing you because I confused myself for a while. When you start looking at this, if you don't start doing the research, you know, like I say, you can very easily be misled. You know, and you can't start jumping, you know, ahead, making assumptions. Don't assume, all right? Do the research. You know, otherwise you may be chasing something you're not even a part of. Now, again, with me, the DNA straightened it all out. So, you know, if you don't mind doing your DNA, go for it. Now, a lot of people think there's a big conspiracy on that. Well, it could be. I don't know. I'm not going to say yes or no. All I'm going to say is my wife and I both did DNAs. All right, we're set in where we are. We're all set. We have no problems. So, you know, we're not looking to build our life, our relationships, or, you know, our whatever it is, our portfolio, so to speak. So where we are is where we are. So, you know, we just did it. Like I say, if you're younger, that's another story. You may want to think about it. You know, do you want it out there? Is it being used to, you know, in the government's advantage? You know, you don't really know. There's a lot of conspiracy figures and theories out there. All I can say is if we were to live all our lives on this so-called conspiracy theories, we would probably all just live in a box someplace and not talk to anyone, never come out, and that's all there is to it. So, you know, you gotta have a little bit of open mind here and there every now and then, and do what you need to do. So I'm not going to push the DNA on you, but if I hadn't had it, I'd be going nuts right now trying to figure out who this other name was, wasting a lot of time when it really had nothing to do with me at all. So, but meanwhile, that's that. So I am who I am. And I may let you know what the DNA results were to let you know what I actually am. I am human. We figured that out. And I am a male. Well, at least I know I have been for all these years. So at that point, that's where we're at, guys. So, if you join up, which I say it's a lot of fun. It's interesting, it really is, but it takes up a lot of time. And definitely be ready to have 2 or 3 windows going and have a pad and a pencil because you're going to be doing a lot of writing. But don't let it consume your life either. You follow me? I mean, not unless you just, you know, you're retired, you just want to sit home and, you know, you're just sitting there watching TV all day. Well, then this may be something to do, all right, because it will keep you active. So, all right. Catch you later, guys.